Good day. This is Robert Hunt, Superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools, and I am continuing my journey with tremendous Chagrin Falls students talking about teachers that have made an impact on your life. I'm so lucky to be joined by freshman Max Klug and senior Hanne Wilson. Max and Hannah, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
How are you doing in this kind of virtual world?
It's definitely easier than I thought it would be. Definitely easier to handle than I was expecting.
What about you, Max? How you doing?
I think it's a lot different than just normal general school, but it is easier to handle overall.
So, Hannah, this is tough for you being a senior with all of those events and things that are going to look differently. How are you kind of managing all of that and processing it?
So it's definitely hard because, we've been looking forward to our graduation, our senior prom, our whole lives. But I'm definitely thankful that we live in a world that has technology because imagine like 25 years ago, we wouldn't be able to graduate at all. So at least we still have that diploma that we're getting. So it is tough to manage, but I'm also thinking it could be worse. At least we're healthy. At least we can still communicate with one another.
Well, that's great perspective, and a reminder to us all that as tough as things are, we live in a pretty great place and have a lot of things to be thankful for. So appreciate that message for sure. So it is Teacher Appreciation, Staff Appreciation Week at Chagrin, and I had this grand idea that I would just go and talk to the people that matter most, and that's our students, to get some feedback on staff and teachers. And I challenged you to think of a few teachers, 2, 3. Some of you may have broken the rules, seniors, and added a fourth. But thinking about teachers in your educational past, rather than talking about specifics first, what types of things kind of separate, really good teachers for you when you kind of walk out of their classroom, you think, wow, that is just a really great teacher. So what are the characteristics of a great teacher that's impacted you? So Hannah, you want to start with that?
Sure. I think for me, the biggest characteristic for a teacher that makes an impact is the amount of time they put in, especially like outside of school, because not putting the time in doesn't make you a bad teacher, because it's definitely understandable that all teachers have lives and families to go home to, but it really makes a difference for those teachers that go the extra mile. For example, I didn't pick Miss Petit because I know Annie talked about her yesterday, but I do want to name drop her because it's impossible to understand how much time she puts in until you're in her class. Like, it's crazy. She has a grandson, and she went through a whole move this year, and she still spends hours each night, like, making sure her students have the best. And there's plenty of teachers in the school like that just put in the time to focus on us.
Look at you name dropping and breaking the rule. That's what
I
happens.
had to.
Right. Max, what about you? Before we get into your specific teachers, what experiences have you had with teachers, or what characteristics do they have that really make an impact on you?
Teachers that can make a class that I would find boring really interesting and fun to me is something great that I like about teachers. And teachers that are always there to help if you get stuck on a problem or if there's something you need help on. That's just one thing that makes a teacher great in my mind.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, let's get to some specifics here. Hannah, do you want to kick us off with someone from your list? Tell me the teacher's name and maybe why you chose them for this recognition.
Sure. So the first teacher I chose was Senora Walsh, because she's made speaking a foreign language so easy for me. And I know so many students that, because of her class, have stayed with Spanish through their senior year of high school. She also does a great job of paying attention to everyone's lives. Like, we'll come in on Monday and she goes, "Oh, how was that golf tournament this weekend?" Like, she knows what's going on with each of her students, and she really makes a point to include every member of the class, make sure every person is participating. We have inside jokes with the whole class. She just does a great job of keeping students engaged. And I just have to give her props because she lives so far away that she wakes up at like 4:45 in the morning to get to school every day, and she's just full of energy every single day.
Yeah, I see that. I sense that too, kind of walking around or poking my head in the classroom. She's always really positive and happy. And I think she really loves being a part of Chagrin Falls. And although she lives on her west side, I think a big part of her heart is here for sure. So
For
great
sure.
way to kick us off. Max, you want to drop one of your teachers for me?
My first teacher was Mr. DiGeronimo. He taught me overall a lot of new stuff for math this year. And he always made the class really interesting to me and just made me laugh. And just I really got to know the material just through like learning it. And then he would have us do lessons and homework on it, which just made it so much easier to learn. And he gave us tests that were really well-rounded based on the material and weren't like far off from what he taught us. And so it just made the class a lot less stressful, and he was always there to help if I got stuck in a problem or anything.
Yeah, so I've heard a bunch of times from students with Mr. DiGeronimo and Miss Asher's mentioned as well that he has a really good way of kind of breaking things down and explaining things to help you really kind of understand content and maybe start to get to that point where you can enjoy mathematics or come in math classroom a little bit. So that sounds like it resonates with you for sure. Yeah. All right, Hannah, let's jump back over to you. I feel like I'm a game show host in this right now. Let's jump back over to you. And I think you have done a combo deal here with a group of teachers that work together. So why don't you go there now?
Yeah, so my next teachers who have really impacted me are definitely Miss Schoenfeld and Mr. Subnowski. They're kind of the power duo that just always work together to solve problems. And it's kind of crazy, like, thinking that we've had Miss Schoenfeld for 6 years now as seniors. We've, like, basically grown up with her, and she just does so much for the program. And before Mr. Sub even came around, she was, like, single-handedly running things. And it was so crazy to see him grow, like, in his first year teaching to now. They dedicate so much to keep the band going, like, especially in times like these. Like, they're arranging virtual jazz band meetings, and they just put in so much time.
That's great. Yeah, I think with the band program, I think unless you're in it, you don't realize the amount of time that students and certainly staff and the amount of parent support that it requires to pull it off. It's much more than showing up on a Friday night and having some fun and playing. It is a huge commitment from staff, and both those individuals go above and beyond to make it special for our kids. So great shout out there. Thank you for that. Max, we're going to come back over to you for your second recommendation or second person you'd like to recognize and acknowledge.
My second teacher is Mrs. Anderson. She also taught me a lot of material about biology this year, and she really helped me if I got stuck on like a lab problem or if there was anything that I didn't understand. But she also let me learn individually, and if I learned stuff individually, I feel like I remember it more. But she would be there if I got stuck. But she really just made the class individualized, and I liked that a lot.
Wow, that's good to hear. We've talked about this idea of personalizing education here, and it becomes a little bit of a buzzy term. But to hear a student say that, a teacher's reached out and really kind of individualized things for him kind of really resonates with me. And, talk about another person who puts in a ton of time, whether it be in teaching or coaching it here. Ms. Anderson certainly is that person who and does a lot for the district. So great choices, Max. I think Hannah, you're going to wrap us up with one more. You're going to jump out of Chagrin Falls High School and maybe go back to the glory days a little bit over at the intermediate school. So why don't you share that with us?
Yeah, so my last teacher who I just couldn't leave out was Mr. Dole. I had the pleasure of having him for 3 years as well. And I think he just creates such a tight-knit community. Like, in my grade, there were 16 students that had him, and we're still to this day so close, and it was all because of that class. And he really just exhibits leading by example with his like wit and humor and creativity and his kindness that just is such a good impact on young kids.
So that's amazing. So big one last shout out to Ms. Walsh, Mrs. Schoenfeld, Mr. Somnosky, Mr. Dole, Mr. DiGeronimo, and Miss Anderson. And then we slid in a little bit on there with Miss Petit as well. So all great educators that demonstrate on a daily basis how much they care about kids and have a passion for what they do. So thank you, Max and Hannah, for sharing those. Before I let you go today, I'd like to just hear how it's going for you from a student perspective in a kind of this online digital learning environment. So I've been kicking off with Hannah. Why don't we go over to you, Max, and just how's it going educationally? What do you like? What's a struggle for you? And, give us an update.
I like being able to set my own schedule, like when I wake up in the morning and like when I'll get certain assignments done and stuff like that. It allows more flexibility in my life and just decreases stress overall. But one part that I think is a little different is not going the same order every day. So I might skip out on like one assignment and turn it in late or forget about it until like last minute. And that is a little stressful, but it has a lot of flexibility and I overall enjoy that.
Great. Hannah, what about you?
For me, it's definitely hard to stay motivated because people usually say that second semester senior year is the toughest with senioritis. But now that it's online and AP tests are open note, it's especially hard to stay focused. But it has been a really good experience staying in touch with my teachers. They care so much about us, and some of my teachers are sending videos to shout out students, and sometimes we go on their office hours just to chat and catch up, and some are posting books and recipes, stuff to do with all this time. And it's a really great relationship, and I'm really thankful that we got to know them before this whole experience, and we can kind of become closer through it rather than them kind of having to shoot in the dark, like not knowing anything about us.
So interesting, and this can go to either one of you. Is there anything that we have done or been put in the place where we had to do during this virtual experience that you think we could bring over when we return to quote unquote normal school? Is there anything that whether you're doing it on portion of it online or whether it's a blended environment, anything that kind of strikes you that we should really think about integrating into the traditional school day?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of the main ideas involved in this whole situation we kind of already incorporate into school, like collaboration online and problem solving. Like I think we have a lot of that curriculum, but I definitely think it is easier to work in person. The one thing this has helped us through is it's definitely easier to reach out to your teachers now. Like I'm not afraid to email them, whereas freshman or sophomore year I probably was intimidated to email my teachers for help or something. Like now that it's necessary, we're definitely more comfortable doing that.
Okay. Max, anything that you think about?
I really agree with Hannah about how it's more easy to like talk to your teacher now that it's kind of required, and it's like the only way to get with them and talk to them through either Google Meets or emailing. And yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys, I really appreciate you taking some time out and sharing your experiences and your thoughts. And I know, the teachers that you mentioned today, we could buy them whatever gift, and send it to their house. But hearing from students that they're making an impact and a difference is probably the greatest gift we can give. So I really appreciate that. I will echo that we miss having you guys around. School is not a great place when it's quiet. It's much better when the noise is here. And Hannah, we're going to do everything we can to celebrate this class. And you can know one thing, in the history of Chagrin Falls graduating classes, this one's going to be remembered and special for enduring this. So I have a lot of you guys should be very proud of how you've handled this as a senior class as well. So thank you very much. You guys have a great day. Get back to those assignments if you need to, and we will talk soon, okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.